Okay, so in this video we're going to move the ground to the left. We're going to start moving the ground to make it more interesting. Okay, so to move the ground, what we're going to do is that we're going to go to our assets and we're going to go to our scripts and we're going to create a new script. So let's hit create C# script and let's create a new script called move left because we want our ground to move left. Okay, so move left, double click in the script and the move left script will open. All right, so what we want to do is that we want to move the ground to the left. So to do this, we have to do it inside the update method. So we can just say transform dot position equals new vector2. So new vector2 on parentheses, and now we have to specify the x component. So we want to modify the x component in every frame. So we can say transform dot position dot x plus, we're gonna say plus speed because we want the speed for the ground times time dot delta time. Okay, and then we need the y component. The y component is going to be just a transform dot position dot y of the ground because we don't want to alter the y component. All right, so we haven't declared a speed yet, so let's do that. Let's go to the top and let's declare the speed. So public float speed. Okay, so we made it public because we want to actually edit the speed from the inspector, and we multiply the speed by time.delta time because we don't want to move this amount. So we don't want to move the speed in every frame. We want to move the speed in 1 second. So whatever we put in here in the speed will move. That's the distance. That's the amount of Unity units that we will move in one second. Okay, so here I say plus speed. If I say plus speed, that means that we're actually gonna move to the right. So if we want to move to the left, I have to say minus speed times time the delta time. All right, so let's go now to the Unity editor, and now you know that for this script to work, for the move left script to work, we need to actually attach it to the ground. So select the ground and we can drag it or add the component. I'm going to click add component. I'm going to look for the move left script, and here is specifying it's telling us which speed we want the ground to have. So I want the ground to have a speed of 0.5. So just type in 0.5, click Ctrl S, click play, and you can see that the ground is moving. So when we click play, the ground is moving, and if there's no ground, we fall. Okay, so one thing we can do is that we can duplicate the ground object. So to duplicate an object, select the ground and hit Ctrl D. So now we have duplicated the ground. Now we have ground 1 and ground 2. So select the second ground and we're gonna move the second ground to the right, and we want to place the second ground right next to the first ground. But doing this manually is a little bit complicated. So how can we actually set the right position for the second ground? Okay, so if we select, for example, the first ground, we can see that here in the inspector, in the box collider component, we can see that the size of the ground is 1.68 along the x-axis and 0.56 along the y-axis. So we know that the ground is at position 0. So it's at position 0 on the x-axis, the first ground. And we know that the length of the ground is 1.68. That means that if the ground is at position 1.68, it will be right next to the first ground. So if we set the position of the second ground to 1.68 along the x-axis, it will be right next to the first ground. So let's do that, 1.68. All right, so now you can see that if we zoom in, the second ground is right next to the first ground. All right, so now we hit play, everything should work fine, and we should see that both grounds are moving. Both grounds are moving because both grounds have the script move left. All right, but there is one problem, and the problem is that if we press play and the grounds are moving, okay, we can see this in the game view, the grounds move, and then they end up disappearing and they never come back again. Okay, so we want to reposition the grounds. We want to make it so when the first ground goes all the way to the left, so when it goes to position minus 1.68, then when we have this ground at position minus 1.68, what we want to do is that we want to reposition this ground. So we want to reposition the first ground right back to the right. Okay, so all the way to the right. So how do we do this? Okay, so to do this, we have to find a way to reposition the ground. All right, just let me try to figure out where it was. Okay, it was over here. So if you did a mistake, if you did something and you want to go back, just press Ctrl+C X amount of times and you will go back to the previous step. Okay, so if you want to go back 10 times, 10 steps, you just press Ctrl+Z 10 times. Okay. All right, so to do this, we're gonna go to the script, to the move left script, and in here we need to find a way to reposition the ground. Okay, so first what we need to know is that we need to get a reference to the component, to the box collider component of the ground. So to do that, we're going to create a box collider 2D variable called, for example, we can call it collider, or we can call it box, for example. All right, so in the start method, we're actually going to get a reference to the collider. So we're going to say box equals get component box collider 2D, like this. All right, and now we need to create a variable that will be the width of the collider. So, and the width of the collider is by default the width of the ground. So we're going to say float, and we're going to say ground width. Okay, so float ground width, so this is equal to 0, and inside the start method, once we get the component, once we get the box collider component, we're going to say ground width equals box dot size dot x. So we're setting ground width equal to the collider, to the component dot size dot x. So now the ground width is equal to 1.68. All right, so now we know the value of the ground width. So now what we can do here, we can say that if we can check if the transform dot position dot x is less than minus ground width, so minus the ground width value. So if the position dot x is less than minus 1.68, then we can say that if it's minus, so if it's less than or equal, it's not minus, what I meant was less than. So if the transform dot position dot x is less than or equal to minus ground width, then we want to reposition the ground. So in here we just say transform dot position, and we set the new position for the ground equals new vector 2, and let's open and close parentheses. So new vector 2, for the x component we want to say that it's transform dot position dot x plus, because we want to modify the position to the right, so we add, so we say plus 2 times the ground width. Okay, so 2 times the ground width, and for the y component we're going to say that we don't want to do anything with it, so transform dot position dot y, like this. All right, so here what we're doing is that if the transform dot position dot x is less than minus ground width, we're doing this. What we're doing is that we're repositioning the ground 2 times to the right its ground width. Okay, so hit Ctrl S, go back to the Unity editor, hit play, and now we can see that if everything works fine as expected, we can see that the grounds reposition themselves. All right, so everything seems to be working fine. So that creates an infinite loop, and the grounds will always be like that. All right, so everything is working, so it's working fine so far. So that's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.